Once upon a time, science was almost mythical, honest, objective, self-correcting, always reaching for truth, no matter how uncomfortable. But reality had other plans. The ideal wasn't shattered by enemies, it unraveled from within. Today, we're going to look at how that ideal is quietly transforming into something far more dangerous. John, let's dive in.
Modern science isn't a sleek, transparent machine. It's a tangled web of contradictions, competing interests, and embedded assumptions. The very forces that once fueled its progress are now, at times, reducing it to a bureaucratic performance.
So why do certain theories gain traction without solid empirical support? We're not condemning all of science, just zones like theoretical physics and cosmology, where speculation often races ahead of observation. What's driving this?
7 core factors. 1. Funding and career incentives. Scientists need grants and papers, and often, a theory's utility trumps its truth. Think string theory or cosmic inflation, scientific currency without solid collateral. 2. Methodological naturalism. Science dismisses anything it can't measure: consciousness, intuition, morality. But that's not just a method, it's a philosophical stance dressed as a rule. 3. Circular reasoning. If it's measurable, it's science. If not, it's unscientific, even when it can't be disproven. 4. Unfalsifiability. Some theories are immune to testing, like the multiverse or string theory, yet still wear the label science. 5. Interpretation over evidence. Much of what's called proof is really interpretation. The cosmic microwave background is one explanation for the Big Bang, not the only one. 6. Conformism. Many scientists hesitate to challenge orthodoxy. It's a career risk. Rational skepticism can get punished. 7. Complexity. The deeper the subject, time, consciousness, gravity, the more room for unchecked hypotheses. Elegant equations start looking like truth.
We're showing a table now, comparing how theories hold up, or fall apart, across disciplines. Physics, history, psychology, each has its fault lines. Take string theory, mountains of papers, almost no experimental confirmation. In cosmology, inflation and multiverse theory. In psychology, MBTI and the 10% brain myth, heavy on interpretation, light on hard data. What does that do to public trust in science?
The table shows how entire fields drift into meta-narrative, sometimes ideology, even dogma. It's not that verifiable methods are gone, they still exist, but the tension between data and framework is growing. What's the result? A widening gap between science's polished public image and its messy internal reality. On the surface, sleek models and confident claims. Underneath, fragile logic and unresolved contradictions.
Here's the crazy part. We just showed how some scientific theories are barely hanging on, yet they're published, promoted, and taught. But the idea of mind as a primary cause? Not just rejected, it's unthinkable. Even as a hypothetical. Sounds absurd, right? So why can't we at least explore it honestly? Here's why. Before we can even entertain the possibility of theistic science, we have to expose the double standards embedded in materialism. Not all of them. Just the ones that actively shut down inquiry. Materialism doesn't just play the game, it writes the rules and guards the gate. And it's blind to its own contradictions. Now things get serious. Asking the question is like stepping into a minefield. The system is designed to reject it before it's even voiced. Let me show you 5 systemic double standards. These aren't mistakes, they're embedded. First, logic versus miracle. Science welcomes mind when it builds rockets, writes code, or deciphers genomes. But ask, could mind be present at the origin of the universe? In DNA? In consciousness? The answer, unscientific. Why? Because we don't see the designer. We don't see the builders of the pyramids either, but we don't question their existence. If mind is a byproduct of matter, then materialism, which claims that, is just a byproduct too. That logic eats itself. Either all intelligence, divine or human, is inherently mysterious. Or everything we've built, tech, science, even thought, must be a miracle. In that case, the line between science and mysticism disappears, and we face a logical collapse. Second, methodological naturalism. Science says, we only study what's measurable. Fair enough. But when that turns into a rule forbidding any talk of non-material causes, it stops being method. It becomes dogma. Consciousness, morality, meaning, they're not disproven. They're just not allowed. It's marketed as scientific neutrality, but in practice, it's philosophical censorship. They're not saying, we don't know. They're saying, you're not allowed to ask. Third, scientific theism is barred. You can speculate about the multiverse, string theory, or cosmic inflation, no one calls that religion. But suggest that the universe's order and math point to mind? You get slammed, that's theology. Why? Because one hypothesis gets held to an impossible standard. The playing field isn't level, it's rigged. Most scientific theories today lack firm grounding, but suggest theistic science, and suddenly you're expected to produce God in a lab. Even instrumentation isn't enough. Try replacing theism with panpsychism, dualism, deism, or idealism, the result is the same. But here's the irony, theistic science actually seeks evidence. That's a stricter standard than most competing worldviews face. Fourth, materialism as the hidden enforcer. It poses as neutral method, but it's become a worldview monopoly. Science didn't begin with materialism. Early scientists included mystics, theists, agnostics, and that didn't stop discovery. Today, materialism isn't debated. It's assumed. Anything outside it isn't even entertained. It's not a tool anymore, it's a gatekeeper. Only matter-only theories are allowed. Everything else is stamped pseudoscience, heresy, unscientific. We're forbidden from looking elsewhere. Why? Because human thinking has 3 embedded bugs, like software glitches in our operating system. They distort what we ask, and what we're allowed to ignore. Here they are. 1. Purpose rejection. After centuries of religious dogma, science became allergic to the question, why? Meaning became taboo. We replaced purpose with chance, necessity, function. But even atheistic models sneak in intent, outcomes, design, functions. Science claims to avoid purpose. In truth, it hides it. 2. Causal filtering. After centuries of spiritual abuse, anything non-physical gets labeled dangerous. The mind reacts defensively, instantly rejecting the supernatural. That's not objectivity. That's an immune response. If a cause isn't material, we don't even look. Hence, anomalies, awkward workarounds, and no-go zones. 3. Fear of religion. Since belief in God was tied to violence, anything that even sounds religious is instantly excluded. Not based on content, but on association. If it resembles religion, it's out. Even if it's true. That's not science. That's a trauma reaction, protecting from competitors, history, and hard questions. And if God is real, we'll never find him. Because we won't let ourselves look. And that brings us to the 5th double standard, the most hidden and dangerous. The metaphysics trap. Science says, we don't do metaphysics. But materialism is metaphysics. Just hidden. You'll never see a paper that says, this research assumes only matter exists. Why? Because it's baked in. The wallpaper of science. Always there, never acknowledged. Here's the catch. Any claim outside materialism, too metaphysical. Rejected. But the assumption that only matter exists? That's not considered metaphysics. Why? Because it's already in the rulebook. It's like letting one player write the rules, and ban everyone else from the game. Philosophy, religion, alternative views, all cut off at the door.
The pattern is clear. This isn't just random error. It's a deep structural crisis. Under materialism, science doesn't organize knowledge, it scrambles it. Like entropy in a closed system, materialism is quietly degrading science from within.
Because science isn't light, it's a flashlight. And it's not held by an all-knowing God, it's held by a person. Someone walking through a dark room, lighting only what's in front of them. Everything outside the beam, ignored. He doesn't even know it's there. We shouldn't abandon science. We should stop worshipping it. It's not God. It's not the final word. Its real power lies in its honesty, its courage to say, I don't know. That's what keeps it alive. We've walked through 15 kinds of limits, logical, ontological, and subjective. Not just within theories, but across science itself. And the gap between theory and reality widens further in practice. 2 major frauds. 7 double standards. All baked into the system. The signs are everywhere, theory, application, and ideology are drifting apart. Models, methods, and metaphysics, out of sync. Next time, we'll go deeper, into methodology, ontology, axioms, and the invisible assumptions behind science. Each of the 10 foundational layers shows signs of breakdown. Together, they're pulling science toward fragmentation and a trust crisis. Science isn't a clear window anymore, it's becoming a cracked mirror. So what's the problem? Is science failing? Or is reality too complex for finite minds? It's like quantum superposition. Science both exists and doesn't. It's in a suspended state. Call it epistemic collapse.
So, who's this for?
Not the mainstream. This is for the curious, the patient, the ones who want to dig deeper. We're collecting evidence, data that doesn't fit the materialist mold. All of this, it's prep. For one purpose. To build a rigorous, systematic case for scientific theism. Not belief. Not faith. A logically sound alternative. Not because we want to believe, but because the cracks can't be ignored. The paradigm is collapsing, quietly. Materialism still dominates. But it's a replica of science, not the real thing. And this is a challenge, for anyone who still cares. We're not anti-science. We're anti-myth of infallibility. Critique is not rejection. We're not replacing science with mysticism. We're trying to bring science back to life.
So now you introduce scientific theism
as a hypothesis, open to scrutiny, an alternative that deserves a fair hearing. If it fails, we'll say so. But ignoring it just because it breaks the materialist script? That's not science. If you've made it this far, remember the core message. We don't believe. We verify. Check the facts. Question everything. Think for yourself. And now we ask, what do you think? Maybe science isn't what you thought it was. Let's talk in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.